Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co-hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
What drives me to do what I do is to save lives and prevent injuries. There's a huge opportunity to make the short-term rental industry the safest sector of the travel industry, travel and hospitality industry. And all I want to do is see that people can do that safely. And kind of the motto I have is renters should go home with wonderful and great memories, not Band-Aids.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
In hotels and vacation rentals, the top complaints or issues are noise, garbage, and parking. I may not be able to solve all of your parking and garbage problems, but I could definitely help with your noise problems. And that actually might just help your garbage and parking problems too. So NoiseAware is the only 100% privacy-safe noise monitoring solution that property managers and owners can use in order to ensure they avoid parties and other issues happening at their property. You won't get notified when a plate breaks, but if you have a little quiet get-together that kind of gets out of hand, like this, then NoiseAware will give you the peace of mind to ensure that you and your property, and of course, your profits, are protected. So use my code SlickTalk20 to get 20% off of all noise monitoring devices and focus on the other important things that help you run your business. Now, thank you for checking out Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Get back to the episode, and don't forget to check out NoiseAware while you're listening. All right, everybody, welcome back to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and today is an awesome day because we're going to jump in to a lot of details about safety and everything involved with that. I can't even scratch the surface because we have the man, the myth, the legend who knows everything that we're going to talk about. And Justin Ford, my man, how are we doing today?
Doing great. It's a beautiful summer vacation day, and I'm sure that there's millions of people out there in this world that are having as much fun as we are vacationing in short-term rentals.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, you are a man that's kind of like, I don't know, from the moment we actually kind of met and got introduced from the people at Breezeway, the whole team, I was like, hey, you got to talk to Justin as I was doing some stuff that involved safety regulated and you're just in that world, and they're like, you got to talk to him. And so I was like, all right, great. And then everywhere else, I see you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm seeing you everywhere. So I was like, all right, we got to have them on the show, especially after connecting with Thanks for Visiting Girls and what they're doing and how you guys are collaborating. So I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Well, and the feeling's mutual. Everyone kept saying, hey, you got to listen to Will Slickers. And I'm like, all right, I'll listen to Will Slickers. I love it.
I love it. Well, great referrals equal great relationships, I guess, whatever you want to say. Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you even get started in vacation rentals, hospitality, and all this stuff that we're about to dive into?
Everybody's got their story of how they got in the industry. Most people got in because they start with one home and they thought it was fun to rent it out. And before you knew it, they had a bunch. I think mine's a little bit unique. If you step back just a little bit further from my entry into the short-term rental industry, I served 4 years in the U.S. Coast Guard. I was a ship's navigator, but your side role in the Coast Guard is you're a law enforcement officer, and we did vessel safety. So had an early introduction to safety. And then later on, decided after 11, 12 years in the corporate world, believe it or not, I was a corporate yacht captain for a big credit card bank for a long time. I got caught up with the local fire department, and they came because I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing. I was having an illegal burn in the backyard. And the chief said, hey, we're looking for people on the fire department. I understand you used to be in the Coast Guard by your veterans license plates there. I said, yeah, I know all about putting out fires on boats. So the next thing you know, I was recruited and joined my local fire department where I spent 15 years. And then kind of the third piece that put me where I'm at is I started a boat rental business, and I delivered a rental boat one day to a house that these people were renting. And I was like, so you guys are renting this house out? And this is back in 1997. Airbnb hadn't even been thought of yet. I think Brian Chesky was still in diapers. Not to age myself too much here, but delivered a rental boat and thought that was pretty cool. And the next thing you know, I said, hey, why don't I rent the houses and the boats? I'll bring the boats here. So my whole mindset was to rent waterfront homes where we could bring boats in and do that, of course, safely. So that kind of got me started into where I'm at today.
That's incredible. So you would get the homes waterfront, and then would you add the boat rental as like a upsell package, I'm assuming?
Exactly. Started a second business for liability purposes.
Yeah.
That was all I did was waterfront homes, and learned real quickly the amount of income that you could make. Sometimes, especially, I loved it when it rained, and you're out in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
You could rent a boat to somebody for $3,000 for the week, and it'd sit on the dock the whole week, and they'd never use it. And that you'd make more money than on the boat than you did on commission.
Exactly. So that's actually incredible to think about. I'm just thinking about, especially the Pacific Northwest, when it does rain, especially like, let's say starting next month, or no, not next month, but September. Yeah, it gets a little crazy with the weather. So I want to know, how did you convince these waterfront homeowners to let you do this? Was this like a big safety concern out the gate? Were they like, hey, we don't feel comfortable with the liability issues, blah, blah, blah?
So that was 1997. 2006 is when I formally started my vacation rental company up in Maine, along with my former business partner, and it was called On the Water in Maine. So that was our focus, was you had to be on or within a site of water. And so that's all that we rented, and homeowners came on board. It was a marketing amenity. They'd go, wow, if we list our house with you, you're going to make our house more marketable because you can deliver a boat there. And in fact, we had people that would rent houses from us that really didn't care for the house and didn't really necessarily want to rent that house. But if they could have that boat and go water skiing all week, or kayaking, or we had sunfish, we had sailboats. At one point, I had a fleet of almost 50 different watercraft. That was the reason that they rented that house, was because we offered boats to them.
So you were really creating a destination out of an amenity rather than the actual property itself, which is like way harder, in my opinion.
Yeah, I learned it the hard way, probably around, I'm going to say 2004, 2005. One of our guests put diesel fuel in a gasoline operated boat. They're supposed to call us to have us refuel it, but the next renters weren't able to use the boat. And I'll never forget, that was a big message. The family showed up, kids, everybody was on the dock. They'd driven 12 hours from Philly for their 1 week vacation. And I said, I'm sorry, this boat's broken. I don't have any other boats, and there's no one else who rents them. And he looked at me and he said, this is like showing up at Disney World and being told that there's no rides. We're just here to walk around Disney World. And I realized at that point in time what an impact we were making for guests.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's a powerful message too. Like that, probably, I can imagine what you walked away with, feeling and the thoughts that go through your head. Because, like you said, Disney World is what a lot of people save up their whole year for, right? And then to not get that experience.
I went out and bought another boat, by the way. I made that, and that's the moral of the story in the short-term rental industry, is that it's all about the guest's happiness and how little they have. And he was a repeat renter for years after that, because he knew I went that extra effort to do that for him.
Yeah, no, and I hear that story a lot. Like when I just mentioned thanks for visiting, girls. Like a lot of the times, like they'll say, "Oh yeah, guest wanted this," or "We didn't have this in the property because it's not an amenity we normally stock, but you can simply order it on Amazon. Some locations you can have instant same day delivery. In other cases, if you just go drive to the Target or Costco or whatever and you drop it off, boom, you've got a secured guest for life who's going to be loyal to your brand, which is really cool. So I think that's awesome. Yeah. It's a good example. But I want to jump into more of your safety training, because we just went through the training course that you guys have. So understanding the importance of it, like I've been trained on safety in other aspects through military or through even just like hotel training when I was a front desk agent or a GM. And you don't think about it a lot. And then it's like all of a sudden after taking this course, I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm looking at deck railings. I'm looking at fire extinguishers. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at that. And so kind of walk us through, was there anything in particular that really made you say, all right, this is what the industry needs? What kind of popped up and created that moment for you?
Yeah, and that's great to hear. And I hear people every day. I get texts and email messages. People bump into me and say, "Oh, what would Justin Ford say about this stuff?" I'm checked into a hotel room and there's a smoke alarm hanging off the ceiling, and they text it to me. So I get a kick out of it. But when you think about a lot of different things that are out there for, let's approach it not from the industry, but from a career standpoint, a doctor's not going to go in and do what they need to do without training. Auto mechanics go to school, generally speaking, and learn how to work on engines. And, if you want to be a really good chef, you go to culinary arts school. And so the short-term rental industry was kind of unique in the sense that people said, well, we're just going to do what people have been doing for a long time. I'm from New England. People used to, before even the steamboats were around in the late 1800s, they got out of Philadelphia and New York. It was hot. They came up to Maine and spent a month in a rental property on the coast. So short-term rentals have been around for a long time. But what's really happened, after the 2000s, basically, growth of Airbnb, HomeAway, and Vrbo, all that stuff, is that people didn't really pause and go, wait a minute, this is an industry. It's not an example of, well, I grew up in a house, so I know how a house works. And I think that's the mentality a lot of people took. They skipped right ahead and basically it'd be like a doctor jumping into the hospital and going, I'll figure this out. There's tools we need to do and schedule appointments, but just get on the table and let's do surgery. And that's what's happened with safety. And unfortunately, in 2013, there was an accident at one of my short-term rental properties that permanently disabled a woman. And at first, it was kind of like, geez, my first reaction was, well, that was dumb. Why'd they do that? Then the owner said, hey, this is your fault. And it was like, how is this my fault? And then after a few months, it was suddenly like, holy smokes, I should have known better. Why didn't I have this property set up safely for these renters? These people are renting from me. They're paying me. They're paying my company. And I'm telling them this is a safe place to go. And yet they're showing up and it's on them. That's not right. And so I started looking around and realized nowhere in the world did anybody have any information on what you needed to do. There was nothing out there. We skipped it. Everybody who got into this industry, we skipped right over the most important part. And that's kind of where I got started with creating the safety training course that you said and doing these safety certifications. Was I put it together. I packaged it up starting around 2013 and put something together that people can refer to now and have as a resource.
Well, and it goes, I like that you kind of mentioned how we just kind of skipped over, because I feel like when Airbnb came to the game, where it really became the sense of like, when you want to go buy or build a hotel, you have to go through all these hoops, right? These certifications, these trainings, these, permits, whatever it may be. But then Airbnb comes along and allows anybody, but like literally anybody can rent, as it was intended in the beginning, to be a couch surfing platform, air mattress, and a spare bedroom, whatever it may be, jumps over those hurdles that originally, and now made that barrier to enter super low in the sense of safety aspects, like you're talking about, liability. And so we're 100% skipping over that. How hard was it for you to create a course or a package of information to an industry that's already jumped years ahead than it should have? Kind of like a .com boom, right? Like we have all of a sudden, boom, internet's everywhere, .com growth and e-commerce and all this other stuff. So how do you kind of put that together?
Yeah, it's been the hardest thing that we've had to do. I try and emphasize peace of mind. Having a safe rental property gives peace of mind. And there are thousands and thousands of homeowners and hosts out there. I talked with a group on Facebook the other day that has 40,000 members that are all doctors. They all want their property safety certified because they get it. Generally speaking, though, and this is the sad thing about what I do, my top customers are the ones that just had an accident and then they come to me and they go, holy smokes, this happened. Oh my God, we never even thought this could happen. And it's like, I've been broadcasting this now for 8 years. It can happen. It does happen. And you're about the 50th person that's just happened to in the past week. So it's a really hard thing to do to get people on board. And the real problem was they just need an excuse to do it. You take the property managers, they want to offer safe properties, but it's hard to get their owners to invest in it. It's hard to get owners to buy new linens. They just want to check at the end of the month. They don't want to have new linens and a new couch and all that. And then you add to them, hey, yeah, but we need new fire extinguishers and new smoke alarms. What the heck? No way. We don't need that. When's my check coming? And so getting the owners on board is a whole lot easier when there's some sort of regulations as a crutch. But the thing that really changed everything for me was a partnership that I developed with Proper Insurance. And I'm not plugging their insurance here. I know just by saying their name, that's, I guess, a plug. But Proper Insurance was really the first in our industry to say, hey, guys, I know that all the regulations are around fire, but guess what? That's not where people are getting hurt in short-term rentals. That's only 3% of the claims we get. And that's what all the safety regulations in the country are related to, are fire. They're for much bigger things than that. And we need to approach this differently. And so that's really helped me push forward with what I'm doing, is focusing not just on fire, but on every type of insurance claim that we see out there that's causing accidents in short-term rentals.
Yeah, because a lot of the course goes into the smoke alarms, fire extinguisher, the labeling, where it's placed, how it's safely secured, is it expired, keeping up with your documentation of everything. But for you, what are the other, I guess, for the listeners that haven't gone through the course like I have, and I have a little shameless plug, sneak peek from you guys and getting access to it, but what are the other claims that most vacation rental managers aren't probably aware of?
So just to be clear, non-safety wise, that one of the top claims that happens with insurance companies and short-term rentals is water damage. And that's not necessarily a safety thing unless, mold's developed. But the number one claim related to accidents in short-term rentals is slips, trips, and falls. 83% of all claims are for slips, trips, and falls. And to my knowledge, other than a little bit of looking at some lighting in some localities like Palm Springs or Colorado Springs, Lake Tahoe, there are very few government entities in this country that do anything to address that. And it's crazy because when you go right down the street to your barber shop, there's markings on the door. There's everything there so that you don't slip, trip, or fall. You don't do that in a commercial entity. And when you do, there's huge lawsuits. But guess what? There are in short-term rentals too, because people expect to be able to safely get from their vehicle into the short-term rental, up the stairs into their bedroom, and not trip over carpets, cracks in pavements, not have lighting there, not have handrails on the staircases. Everything we're supposed to do commercially, we're ignoring at a short-term rental level, and it's ridiculous. And that's where the big claims are.
Do you think the issue is because it is coming from a residential homeowner? So when they go through the home inspections and all the other stuff of purchase of property, maybe it's a family home that they grew up in and raised their kids and now they're empty nesters and don't need it. Do you think it's mostly because of that aspect that's not instilled in us when we buy homes as whether it's American or any other country?
Yeah, you touched on a couple things there. We've got some really, and I know you have them up in the Pacific Northwest too. We've got some really old homes here in New England. And what I used to hear from homeowners when you tell them, hey, that railing that's 18 inches tall needs to go to 36, it's code. They'd go, you know what? 6 generations have grown up in this and nobody's ever fallen over that loft. So why would we do that? So that's a really hard thing to overcome. There's definitely a lot of people out there that this is my home. And yes, I'm renting it to make some extra money, but this is my home and the government's not going to tell me what to do. So there's that mentality that's out there. And then there's just the general disregard for what is out there when it comes to safety and regulations. Some people just think, hey, I know how to walk up and down stairs and I don't need a handrail, so I'm not going to put it here. And they don't think about the fact that who's coming in? How often do you actually meet your renters? You ask them all these different things about, who's in their group, what their ages are, all these different things. But do you ever ask them, hey, how you doing? Do you have stairs in your home? Maybe they're not used to it. It's kind of crazy that we just blindly let anybody come stay in our homes. And the gray area that's out there is not a gray area. I hear everyone say it all the time. Well, it's my home. It's not commercial. Well, Guess what? When you get sued for an accident in your rental property, the lawyers are going to get you on the fact that it was commercial use, not residential use. And that's what we see time after time.
So what are the more, I guess, because that you touched a lot, like,
yeah,
that's so much and in depth. For what are like the successful ways that property managers have communicated this to owners in order to overcome those, this is the sixth generation of family that's lived here. We never had any incidents, blah, 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 whatever their excuse may be. Like obviously we have some, related ways that we do it with our onboarding process, saying we have to do it in safety inspection prior to onboarding and signing the contract. We have to do this, we have to do that. In order to like make sure, because that, I think it's like you would be a big fan of a preventative maintenance, right? So how do we get ahead of this before it becomes an issue, before a guest arrives, before after a guest checks out, anything like that? What are the most successful ways, anyways, that hosts and property managers are getting in front of this and actually convincing the owners that this is something that they need to do in order to sign their property with that company?
It's a hard thing to do. It's a balancing act. The last thing you want to do is walk through a house with a property owner and go, all right, you need to raise that railing to 36 inches because last week 4 people fell off in a similar situation and they're all injured. It scares the living daylights out of the owners, and scary stories, of which there's unfortunately thousands and thousands, make them go, you know what, maybe we don't want to run our house. And that's the last thing you want to do. So yeah, it is a preventative thing. I like to, when it comes to professional agencies or even an individual host, I like to approach it this way. Let's start out with life safety. There's a few things when it comes to life safety. The last thing anybody wants is someone to die in their rental property, obviously. So let's make sure it's safe. Let's make sure we've got the best smoke alarms. Let's give people a chance to put the fire out. A lot of rentals are in rural locations. I bet you that 99% of the listeners on your podcast don't even know what the response time is for a fire truck to get to their property. I bet a lot of people don't know that these fire trucks that will come to your property, if you're not near a hydrant, only have a limited amount of water. 1,200 gallons of water in a fire truck is gone in maybe 2 minutes. Maybe. It's not enough water. So you need that fire put out immediately when the fire truck shows up. Give your renters a tool to do it too. If there's a grease fire in the kitchen, give them the best fire extinguisher. It's $45. Stop giving them those crappy little aerosol cans that are $12 that are all greasy sitting behind the stove. So let's set these properties up. And when you kind of portray that to the renter, to the homeowner that way, that, hey, let's address life safety. Let's get the best smoke alarms in here. They're only a few extra bucks. None of us want any trouble from that. Yeah. And then next year, let's go after injury prevention. Let's make sure the handrails are good. Let's make sure the deck's not going to collapse, all those type of things.
That's smart. That's really smart. And the one thing like I've been seeing, and after taking the course, it was like I couldn't stop seeing it again type deal, is the amenity spaces that we add. So like seeing the barbecue training section, and then also seeing like when you have a fire pit, how the hose should be there, the bucket, like all that stuff. Now seeing it everywhere. At least like when I'm like watching TV or, these vacation rental shows that are popping up, I'm like, hey, they need this, they need that. Like, I'm like, dang it, Justin, I want to message you one night and just be like, hey, I can't stop seeing safety. As our Slick Talk listeners know, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into preparing and maintaining short-term rental properties. That's where Breezeway, best-in-class property care and operations platform, comes into play. Their easy-to-use tools help you automate, coordinate, and communicate detailed work at each of your properties so you can deliver the best experience to guests and homeowners. Breezeway integrates with over 30 PMS systems and IoT devices, meaning you can easily harness property data from your entire tech stack to build stronger programs for scheduling, quality assurance, guest texting, owner reporting, and much, much more. Visit breezeway.io/slick to learn more. Now, back to the episode. I guess for all these things, like what is the most, I guess, because it's not front of mind until you go through the course. So
right.
How do you get in front of that, that person or that property manager that comes to you and says, well, hey, we need this course because of an incident? That's what I'm like actually thinking about, because it's going to be really rough in the sense of maybe marketing, or is it awareness? What is that thing?
So safety, there's a lot of different things. There's peace of mind. And I'll share with you a quick story. Someone who took the course just like you did, down in Lake Norman, down in North Carolina. they implemented some of the safety procedures we said for pools. And one of those was making sure that, your pool is just like the pool at the Hilton. It's got not only the sign that says, no running, no pregnant, all that stuff. Don't bring glass around the pool deck and all the things you need to do there. But there's at least a life ring or a safety hook there. And 2 weeks after they took the course, they went out to all their pools and put all the safety features in. Didn't cost very much money. And very first renters that stayed at this home was a family that involved included an elderly woman. I believe she was referred to as Grandma, and she was in a walker. She just had hip replacement surgery, and the parents made a decision, and it's a judgment call that I want to skip over, but just say that it's there. They made a decision to go out and leave some of the young children with Grandma to watch them at the pool. Well, one of the young children started to drown, and the natural inclination for Grandma was to try and get down there, but she just had her hip replaced. She couldn't get down to the pool. She physically couldn't do it. It was too painful. She looked over to her right, saw that pool safety hook, was able to reach it, and was able to pull that 2-year-old out of the pool and save the 2-year-old's life. And for me, you asked me at the very beginning what drives you. I mean, that really is what drives me. Those people are going home going, thank God that rental company. And the fact that they went overboard communicating with the rental company saying, hey, guess what? Thank God you put these safety features in place. It saved our kid's life. We'll be back to stay with you again. Those are lifelong renters. They get it. That's not how you wanted them to become a lifelong renter. But the other side of that is safeties will make your company money. You go to these homeowners, you can generate income by doing these safety inspections and, doing a little upcharge on the features that they need. And then lastly, it's marketing. Do you want to stay in I believe you're familiar with one of our other industry podcasters, Heather Baer.
Yeah.
She's proved this point when she's gone up against 3 other property management companies and said, when she went in and said, hey, we would like to list your home, but this needs to be done, this needs to be done, and this needs to be done to make it safe, to protect all of us and make sure your renters are okay. The homeowners came back and said, Heather, we want to list with your company, because 2 other companies who came over here and we looked at listing with, they didn't mention anything about safety. And the fact that you cared is the big difference. We're signing on with you.
I love that, because so many property managers today, I think, as we all know, we're not having trouble getting bookings. We're having trouble getting more inventory. So we're just pretty much anyone I know that's trying to just get more properties, right? So they'll do anything to sign anyone. Actually, last night, I'm not even kidding you, like, swear to God, that I was on a phone call with a guy who's remodeling a 28-unit motel in New Mexico. And he goes, hey, we need help with locks and technology and all this stuff. I'm like, all right, great. I know you're doing a renovation, but my one question to you, I'm not kidding you, said this and said, do you have anyone in place for a safety inspection? And he goes, no. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I can help you with that too. And he's like, I didn't even think about that. And I was like, yeah, you have all your permits and other stuff, but a real safety inspection on kind of like the stuff you were talking about. And he said the same thing. It was like, that was not even across that's not even on our whiteboard of steps to do to get to live day or to get bookings and stuff like that. So I think that having that forefront is really important.
I'll quickly add in with what you're saying there. This is a little secret. I don't think I've ever shared this before.
A sneak peek.
Some of our top customers are celebrities. And people who are very affluent. And the message that should send is they don't want to get sued from these accidents, and people know that they happen. If you Google, short-term rental accidents, you'll see a very high-profile one that happened 2 years ago was to the star of one of HGTV's do-over shows, has a rental property, and a woman fell down the stairs, and she was suing him for more money than you and I will ever make in our lifetime will, and it's because she knew he had it. Yeah. He's a high-profile person, and I think that should send a message to people that go, wait a minute, why are all these people who make a lot of money, why are they so concerned about making sure their properties are safe? Because they have everything to lose, and so do you. You just don't have as much as them.
Yeah, it's everything to you. It doesn't matter if it's 100 million or 100,000. I think it's everything for people, and I think it comes. We talk about the guest experience a lot on the show. I did a podcast recently that the episode was all about guest experience. What does that look like in the deepest aspect and essence of the word experience, right? But a lot of people, and I love that you mentioned marketing, because for us in our company, we've been incorporating the safety features or enhancements that we've been doing, and maybe even little instructional videos into our digital guidebooks, into our checkout, or like automated messaging and other things. Just using that as a, hey, just in case while you're here, the emergency card is on the fridge, but it's also here in the guidebook. If you have access to your phone and you need that, it's right there. You can give us a call, whatever. And so part of even the onboarding, we've had owners say, why am I giving out my emergency contact info and the local department for fire or police and all this other stuff? It's because that aspect of, you may need that. You may need to have that on hand. And so, I'm glad that you mentioned this marketing, because it actually is a really powerful marketing tool for anyone who is wanting to get more inventory, who just says, hey, we're trying to grow our portfolio. What are other property managers not doing? Are they advertising their safety? And how often do you think property managers are actually advertising their safety practices?
They're not doing it enough. I've been pushing it out there for a while. One of my favorite little marketing tricks has been, and there are a couple companies who do it and they have great success, is give away free first aid kits. I go into so many professionally managed homes where they're giving out, a jar of seasoning or the local blueberry jam, and that's sweet and nice, but ask yourselves, how many renters actually take it? I tried that back in 2005. We put Maine maple syrup, Maine blueberry jam, and some Poland spring water from Maine in the thing. I want to say 70% of people just left it there.
Interesting.
But put something in their hands that they're going to remember you by, and that's something that's inexpensive. For $4, you can put a first aid kit in that's marketed, that has your name on it. And believe it or not, people, when they take it home with them, they are at a soccer game and they're putting a Band-Aid on their kid's knee. And the next thing you know, their friends are saying, hey, we're thinking about doing what you did, going on a vacation. Yeah, stay with this company. Look, these guys cared about us so much, they sent us home with a first aid kit. So there's that you can do. Change your Wi-Fi password. Make your Wi-Fi password think safety. Yeah. And then how many of you actually ask in a exit survey about safety? And I started doing that in 2015. We started asking people in the survey after they left, is there anything unsafe we should know about in the property? You wouldn't believe how many people brought that to our attention, so much so that we actually put it in a pre-arrival survey, saying, is there something here in the property that you have concerns about? And the things that we would hear, that we just didn't even think of, the smoke alarms chirping in the bathroom. Well, it wasn't, or not the bathroom, but the bedroom. Well, it wasn't doing that when we left, but obviously that battery decided that minute to do it. Let's change it right now.
Yeah, well, that's smart. So you're getting ahead of it, because it's always, you make me think of just in the hotel world, where you're always trying to get in front of, or at least more in the vacation rental world too. You're always trying to get in front of that bad review, right? You're always saying, hey, like after they check in 2 hours later, you send an automated text or message on Airbnb saying, hope your check-in was smooth. Is there anything that we can do to help you? Blah, 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 blah. Trying to get in front of that bad review. Maybe they checked in, the sheets were messed up and the housekeeper didn't see it, or whatever it may be. But for you guys are kind of doing that in the same aspect of the safety, not just saying, hey, leave us a good review. How was your stay? But did you feel safe? Was there anything that you, maybe mom or, like I know my mom, at least whenever she goes anywhere, she's like, oh, that doesn't look okay. Like that's a little dangerous. And you're like, no, it's fine. But how can you get in front of that? And I think asking, just blatantly asking, is simple as getting in front of a safety issue. So that's good to know. I'm taking notes. So anyone who's listening to this podcast, like I already went through the course and I'm still adding more to it. Like that's how intense and in depth this can go.
It's a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I had some friends that were staying at I'm not going to say which company or through which OTA, but they were staying at a short-term rental, and they said, oh my gosh, Justin, you got to see this. And they sent me pictures. Oh boy. And it was a lakeside cottage up on stilts, and wooden stilts on a banking that led down into the lake. And it was being supported by hydraulic pump jacks that said Sears on them. And the logo was from at least the 1960s, if not earlier. These were really old jacks, and they were little wooden shingles. I'm not kidding you. He showed in a video that you could wiggle the jack and the whole cottage shook. What terrified me is that this cottage had been rented this way so long that when you went back in reviews for at least 2 years worth of publicly available reviews, The only thing you ever saw the guests talk about was, hey, it'd be nice if, there was an extra set of towels, and hey, there's a drip in the faucet. These poor folks had no idea that they were this close to sliding into the cottage, and they would have drowned. It was a deep, shallow area. And fortunately, we got that listing pulled and the owner addressed it. But you got to remember, these guys show up and they trust you. They trust you that you've offered them a property that's safe to stay in, whether you've said that or not. And so why not proudly say it and stand behind it that, yeah, you just drove 12 hours, you just drove 8 hours to show up here and check in and then get groceries, and the kids are fighting, and you've been waiting for this vacation all year. But damn it, when you go to bed tonight, know that I'm going to wake you up because I put a nice smoke alarm in there. And if there's a fire at 2 a.m., you're getting up and you and your family are getting out of there. Make them feel that that's important. And they'll question it when they go other places that don't have that. And they'll be back to stay with you again.
I love that. Just put it at the forefront. Justin, so I got a couple more questions and we'll try to wrap it up because I don't want to go too long. Obviously, we got other places to see and do. You got a lot of lives to save, but I want to know for you guys, what is the next, is the mission to continue, you've been on the road, I've been on the road, is the mission to continue to get out there on these properties and start addressing these issues, or what's the real mission going on, continuing that, that drive that we talked about in the beginning?
Yeah, there's a couple things we're trying to do. And the very first most important focus that we're trying to do at Breezeway is awareness. We're offering free safety certifications right now. We're just trying to get people to do it. It's an 18-point inspection. It covers everything from your address marker. Believe it or not, address markers are critically important. How's the ambulance going to find the rental property from a renter who says that they're staying at Heron's Nest? 911 doesn't know what Heron's Nest is.
Yeah.
And if the person who got the driving directions emailed to them is the one having the heart attack, they don't know. So address markers, you mentioned the emergency safety card, where's the power shut off, smoke alarms, are the chemicals under the sink. So just the core basic ones we're offering. Well, you show us you've done it, we'll certify it. Number two, what we want to do is reward people for this. And it's not only from what we've just been talking about from a marketing point of view, but we're working with insurance companies such as Proper Insurance. They give a 5% discount on premium, which can be quite a bit of money, depending on your rental property, if your property is safety certified. Simple as that. So let's reward people. It's kind of like the safe driving discounts that everybody likes to get with their car. You show us for 30 days, you drive it safe, you'll save on your premium. Well, show us that you really do have smoke alarms in your rental property and you really do have a focus on safety. We'll save you there. And then the third is really supporting regulatory smart regulations. We don't want rentals banned. We don't want to see sprinkler systems installed in every single rental property, but we want accountability. We want to support government entities to do smart things. Like I said before, 3% of accidents are fire. Those are what makes the headlines. Firefighter. I was a firefighter for 15 years. I was a training officer. No one ever trained me about a deck collapse. They never even trained me where to install a smoke alarm properly. So we want to make sure that the government's doing the right thing when it comes to requiring safety regulations. Put them in place that are going to actually address what's there and make it reasonable so that a homeowner goes, yeah, I can do these things. Yeah, I'll have my deck checked once a year. Yeah, I'll put the grill 3 feet away from the house so that it doesn't catch it on fire. And yeah, I'll make sure there's an outside light. We need to move away in this country from relying solely on the fire service to do safety inspections, and Breezeway's hoping to help support do that. Frankly, just so you know, firefighters don't want to do safety inspections. It's the last thing they want to do. They want to keep the red trucks pumped with fill of water, and they want to be out rescuing people. They don't want to come in to have to check and make sure you've done what you're supposed to do.
I love that. And it's like you guys are the vacation rentals progressive. You're like the flow, that we see on TV. Just, reward you with a good practice and good service and good driving. I like it. No, that's awesome. This is really incredible. There's a lot of detail that go into it. And I hope, whoever's listening, that you just take this in, whether you're a hotel, vacation manager for whatever type of vacation home, luxury, cottage, whatever. I don't care. You take it in consideration and realize that this is deeply important.
You have a lot of listeners that are hotel owners.
We do, yeah, because I started out in the hotel world, so it was like, I shifted over from the dark side, to to become in the vacation rental world. So I've actually had it recently, just as a side note, like had a small boutique hotel out in Florida reach out and just say, hey, like this is one thing that we were practicing, blah, 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 blah. This episode really helped. Our team loved it. Thank you. And it was like, oh, cool. Like little boutiques, 20 door, 12 door, 9 door, whatever. So it's cool stuff.
The hotel people listen to this and they go, well, wait a minute, we have to do all this.
Yeah.
1990 Federal Hotel, Motel and Safety Act. And I don't know that a lot of people know this, but the reason why, especially if you're in an urban market, the reason why nobody who's a government worker can stay with you and some of these traveling nurses that are doing government contracts is because rentals are not considered safe by the federal government.
Yeah.
And that's why the Federal Hotel Motel Safety Act came out in 1990. So hotel people are like, yeah, we have to check smoke alarms. We have to have fire extinguishers. We have to make sure there's handrails and inspect this, and the pools have to all this. So it's no brainer. And when you really step back and look at it, the reason that the short-term rental industry right now is the most unsafe sector of the hospitality industry is because of just really how unregulated it is. Mm-hmm. But we can get ahead of that. We can show government entities that, yeah, we do care. We can self-regulate ourselves. And look, we're doing these safety checklists. We're making sure everything's safe. And you guys stay away from us because we're doing what we're supposed to do. If that's what people want to do, we can do that. Yeah. We can unite and get behind this.
100%. And I love what Dana Lubner says with Rent Responsibly. She was on the show and she talked about, everyone wants a seat at the table, but nobody's willing to drag their chair around and get ready to have that seat when it comes to it. And part of having that seat with you and dragging around is being ahead, like being ready. So what does it mean to be ready? It means a safe property. It means a good guest experience. It means that you take care of your owners. It means that you're licensed and insured and bonded and all this good stuff. Like that's part of carrying your chair around. And I think it's super important. And when she said that, I've never forgotten it. And it applies perfectly with what you just said. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, she sees what I see, and that is, people, all these groups. I just got through working with a new group in Vermont. There's a new group popping up because Rhode Island's starting to put regulations together. Yeah. All these groups suddenly appear when they feel threatened, but it's like, what have you been doing all along? If you address this problem from the beginning, this wouldn't be an issue. Yeah.
Well, it goes to show that our industry is not as easy as a lot of these other influencers that try to make it out as, I'm going to show you how to make $1 million on Airbnb, but I'm not going to show you how to do anything to be ahead of any of this stuff. So it's pretty crucial. I think it's awesome. Well, Justin, like always, we love to give our guests the ability to do a shameless plug, shameless shout out. Everyone knows it's going to be linked in the bio and all the show notes, but where can people find you? Where can they learn more? What's the go-to place?
Yeah, really easy. First, if anybody listening to your podcast wants a free safety certification, just reach out to me, safety@breezeway.io. If you don't know, Breezeway is a technology company. We've created a software for not only helping with cleaning and maintenance and management of the business side, so to speak, of your rental property. But we've taken that step to do what I'm doing here, where we're educating in that arena, where we're making sure that we're supporting, because that's what people did. They said, this is a great software and we love it, but do you have any recommendations on safety checklists or cleaning checklists? So we've become experts in that field as well. So that's why I referenced that we're a technology company, but we educate. Safety@breezeway.io. Shoot me an email. Happy to send you the link to get your free safety certification. There's also Justin Ford, Safety Expert on Facebook. That's where I post all the stories that we can learn from. And as you noted, I keep a lot of things going in different Facebook posts, and certainly you follow me in any other place, LinkedIn, everything. And I also have a website where I do list some of my personal favorite safety products and things at justinford.expert.
I love that. So everyone listening to this episode, you will see it in the show notes. Go ahead, scroll down, click the links, enjoy, because this is a lot of great free resources. And Justin, again, thank you so much for being on the show, and everyone tuning in. We will see you again next week.
Before we go, can I just put you on the spot real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not letting you go without this one, Will. This is a real important one. You took the course.
Yes, sir.
What is the single most important item in a short-term rental?
Oh, boy. Fire extinguisher.
Oh, Will. Buzz. Smoke alarm.
That was
Smoke
my
alarm.
second best. That was my second one. The reason
Second
why I
one.
said fire extinguisher is because of the labeling. That's the number one thing, that no one labels where it's at.
That's all right. I put you on the spot. But yeah, you can stay in a short-term rental with no furniture, no TV, the hardwood floors, no windows. But if you don't have anything to wake you up and get you out, you're done. So make sure all your listeners can close and leave with the fact that Will's second most important and my most important item in a short-term rental is the smoke alarm.
Yeah, learn from my mistakes. Smoke alarm first, not a fire extinguisher. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Slick Talk. And Justin, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
As I've been growing my business and finding new ways to add to my property portfolio, I have to think about how I can anticipate the homeowner's needs, just like I do for my guests. One of the things owners always ask is, how is my property going to be protected? What happens if something gets damaged or worse? These are valid questions and concerns, and I have an opportunity to address these concerns before they even get mentioned, all thanks to having Safely as part of my toolkit. I can ensure all stakeholders are covered during a guest stay and use this information as a way to grow my business by ensuring my property owners know they can trust that I have them covered. If you're a professional property manager, then you need to get Safely in your tool belt so you can focus on operating and growing your business. Thanks for listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, back to an episode. What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.